Okay, guys. So I'm tracing my family trauma and abuse, right? So my grandmother on my mom's side texted me, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. She said, "Hi, honey, just checking up on you. Want to chat?" Right? I love you. So I had to sit with that, man, because see, my family is extremely passive aggressive. My grandma and my extremely rich aunt used to, when I would go over there to visit them, there was a time when I went over there to visit my aunt. My grandma was always there at those times. So it was about a half dozen times within probably about a 3 year period, 2, 3 year period after I'd gotten out of the military. And then and shortly after that is when I quit even associating with them. But I used to take my son, at that time it was just my son, and I would take my son over there with me, and all they would want to do is just gossip and, "Oh, Richard, what'd your mom say now? What kind of crazy stuff is your mom saying now?" Just gossiping. There was never any care for my situation, my situation as a family with my mom. It was all just like our whole drama was just a gossip fodder for them to enjoy. And the reason I'm starting off like that is because it took me a week, I think, before I text my grandmother back, and then I blocked her. And this is what I texted her back. "Grandma, I remember as a young child going to a bakery to make cookies with you, going to watch a couple different Disney movies at the theater, juicing, and flying out to Seattle to get the car you had given us. I still have a Christmas stocking that you had knit for me in 1983. I was for a decade abused by my mother, physically, emotionally, psychologically, socially, and religiously. I ran away at the age of 12 and took my 9-year-old brother with me. No one ever asked why or came to my protection. I ran away again at 14 and was never asked why or protected. I ran away at 16, and Dee, that's my rich aunt, at least took me out of my abusive situation. At the time, I had thought it was that she cared. However, looking back, I see that I was merely a pawn between two siblings who were merely trying to get the upper hand. She knew that my mom had beaten me severely, and yet after moving in there was no further inquiry into the unbelievable extent to which I was abused or seeking out therapy treatment. It was all egotistic virtue signaling. Instead of receiving love from any adult family members, I was merely a convenience or an inconvenience. I was valued for the amount of gossip I generated. Instead of understanding and attention, I received labels and categories. Crazy, alcoholic, liar, lazy, ignorant, out of control, manipulative, arrogant, disrespectful, and on and on. I have wrestled with my trauma and abuse my entire life unknowingly, as I was taught that everything was my fault and I needed to just make right choices. What is the right choice when you hate yourself? According to my survival instincts, I was making all the right choices. How is one to know better when that is all they know? My memories of you as an adult are very few, as I have probably only seen you a handful of times since reaching adulthood. I remember being drilled by you and Dee when I would see y'all concerning nothing but the latest gossip of my mother. Those are the times I was referring to after I got out of the military and I had gone over to my aunt's house to visit with my son. I remember being judged and merely disregarded in everything I said that didn't have to do with her. Anything else that wasn't gossip for them to talk about, I was just completely judged. Like, the last time I had gone over there was when, unfortunately, it was the same exact day my grandfather had died, which was my rich uncle, my uncle's father, the patriarch that started the dynasty of that family. He had died that day, and I had went over there. I brought my son, and I guess my son was about 6 or 7 at that time. That's a rough age. I can't remember. But I needed $1,200 to pay 2 months rent. I was about to lose my house and therefore lose my son. They gave me a whole bunch of shit. My grandmother told me that I should be working 2 jobs at Burger King and wherever else I had to make ends meet, that there was no excuse. And mind you, I'm in a multi-million-dollar home with multi-millionaires, and I was completely broke on my last penny, just gas to get up there, knowing that if I didn't get that money from them, I had to give my son to my ex-wife who was abusing him, and I was going to go homeless. They sent me away with a $600 check, which was enough, obviously not enough to keep me in my place. I lost my son that next day, dropped him off, lost my house, lost all my belongings, lived in my car for a few weeks, and used that $600, to survive on until I was able to get a job and get back up on my feet. I don't just blame my mother for what happened to me. I see now that her indeed displayed unbelievable narcissism in trying to vie for your attention. There is obviously deep generational trauma and abuse that has been passed down in our family. I imagine that they did not receive the love and attention from you as children and were instead given toys and other material possessions in order to take the place of human contact all children and all humans for that matter desperately crave. I am seeing they pick these traits up from you. This is obvious to me after having grown children of my own and realizing the part my piss-poor parenting played in their lives, adding undue stress, worry, fear, and anxiety. I see that instead of you ever addressing and healing from your own trauma, abuse, abandonment issues, you selfishly pass the generational trauma along. Dee has been able to hide hers rather well due to the massive amount of wealth enabling her to distract herself from the pain. My mom, not so lucky. Having the added burden of economic hardship while I was growing up and trying to hide her immense pain, she took it out on me daily. I was a whipping boy, something she kept hidden in the cabin in the woods where family dared not step on her toes, and she would pull me out when needed and take out her aggressions on me. All while in public smiling and acting like all was well because she didn't want you to be disappointed in her. She was obviously very, very jealous as to how well you treated Dee. Instead of being a mother to her and understanding and caring, you chose to live in the lap of luxury with your multimillionaire daughter while some days we got by on canned food and Jesus. So all the passive-aggressive arguing that she would get in with you and Dee would be equally meted out in severe punishments on me. I used to hate her for it. However, I have come to understand that she was operating as well from a survival instinct programmed into her as a young child under your authority. You could have made a huge difference and saved me years of abuse had you faced your issues and admitted to the part you played in my mother's unnurtured upbringing. Instead, your arrogance and pride, ego, would not have any of it. You would rather keep distant and blame it on her, gossip about her, and perpetuate the abuse than to take responsibility and admit your selfishness and lack of regard for your own child. You would always say, life is too short to not be happy. That is also one of the last things my grandma told me. I did go up, the last time I saw my grandma was when I went to my aunt's house asking for that money I think that was 18 years ago. And then 3 years ago, I was working with my uncle on and off with his electrical business. And we left for the weekend to go visit my grandma. And that was the last time I saw her. And again, she was still spouting that life is too short not to be happy. I now see that's how you lived as well. Your own happiness and comfort being the one thing you truly valued while feigning the role of mother and granddaughter or grandmother. I guess this was an easy way to live when you were able to afford all the material distractions this life has to offer and have a daughter who can spoil you with whatever else you may want. My hopes were dashed for you ever changing when you text me nonchalantly that you love me and would like to chat. Again, going back to just because you say words does not give them any value. You would like to chat to get the newest gossip. I'm not interested in gossiping or giving any more of my time or attention to anyone or anything that was complicit in my abuse. If you want something to gossip about, you are more than welcome to look at the hundreds of videos I have posted on YouTube in the last year going into more detail of my abuse. I would imagine you already knew about them, seeing how my whole family is gossiping behind my back now. And they all know, like my whole family knows, but I'm a time bomb, guys. I'm a grenade. All these motherfuckers, my whole family would rather attend my funeral than fucking admit anything, any part of their perpetuation of my abuse or the abuse. See, I got the worst of it, guys, but my family, as you can tell, is some passive aggressive, narcissist, nasty, selfish, materialistic motherfuckers. And then my mom, of course, is that Jesus freak shit, religious horse shit, Luciferian. So where was I? If you want something to gossip, okay. And again, I would imagine you already knew about them, seeing how my whole family is gossiping behind my back now. It doesn't faze me. It has become clear how extremely toxic a life you all have created to survive without addressing the important things in healing. Love? None of you know what love is. You say you love your car more easy and often than you tell me. You physically show you love your car by getting it cleaned, maintenance, and the amount of attention you give it. No, every one of you values your material possessions and comfortability. The love you speak of for me is merely a fleeting thought that displaces your dopamine hits. A rather inconvenient thought that the quicker it is replaced, the better. I wish these things weren't true, but this is the reality of it. I clung to the hope that I was loved by y'all. I would have clung to that fantasy until the day I died, but having faced my own demons has removed the veil of all the lies and manipulations of your all's words, and the only thing that is left is the simple truth. You never loved me because you still think love is a 4-letter word. So, guys, I'm sharing this. I sent that to my grandmother. I sent that to my mom. I sent a copy to my mom. I unblocked my mom, sent her a copy afterwards. I unblocked my brother, sent him a copy afterwards. These people, unhealed abusers get away with this stuff because they keep this shit to themselves. So I shared this with those 3 people because, I didn't want my grandma to just hide that and act like it never happened. So I sent it to my mom and I sent it to my brother as well, because my brother, come to find out, is still denying my abuse. My brother is still brainwashed. I'm going to go into all this in another video, but I am about to expose my whole family. I'm going, and by expose, I mean just tell my truth, tell what happened to me in more detail, because they still think they're getting away with it. They are still gossiping behind my back. They'd rather attend my funeral than have any kind of heart, than ever face any of their trauma, than ever face any of their abuse. So they are finding power and banding together against me and those young people who I have here who are trying to heal. They would rather gossip and talk shit and put down and put their names in the dirt than to face their own shit, guys. It's unreal. And so I'm sharing this because, like I said, I want to be able to have more people on. I want more people to start sharing their stories, because the only way that this kind of abuse happens, guys, is by people not speaking out, by people keeping secrets, by people being ashamed. I had so much shame and guilt put on me as a child that it took 40 years for me to be able to confront my grandmother with her part in my abuse. So I will continue to lay this out there, and we will go from there.